In 2012, I had an aha moment in the work that I was doing. Many of us have those moments. I was working a lot in agile transformations, and one of the managers I was working with, he said, Jenni, I've got this team. They really need an agile mindset. Could you come and do a workshop, an agile mindset workshop? And I said, sure, I'm happy to do that. Chatted with him a little bit more and understood that, yeah, there was some resistance in the team for this way of working. Used to that. That's fine, no problem. So planned the workshop, and about 5 minutes before the start of the workshop, the manager came to me and he said, Jenni, I just wanted you to know they hate you. And I was like, what? They don't even know me. No, not you. They hate the idea of you. Oh, okay. So after I got over my initial panic, I thought, all right, what do I do? So I did two things. One, I met them where they were, mindset-wise. And maybe most importantly, I did not mention the word agile or any kind of agile word, jargon, once. Not once. So the whole workshop was about how can we improve together our ways of working. And afterwards, I had some good reflection about what happened there and realized, we are so focusing on the wrong things if we're looking at the process. We need to focus on outcomes, right? That's the heart of Agile, the outcomes. And that is what is important here. So rather than having this about the way of working, we can be more pragmatic in our approach to how we use Agile. And the outcomes are what's important. We need leadership that supports us getting to those outcomes. So as we evolve beyond the frameworks, we need leaders at every level of the organization. And when I talk about leaders at every level, this is where leaders are different than managers, right? We're all leaders. Managers are something else. Some managers are leaders, but not all managers are leaders. So leaders at every level to create environments where people feel empowered to discover and deliver value every day. And intent-based leadership is a proven way to do that, to really redefine what we mean with leadership. So maybe it makes sense here to, if we're looking at what we mean about redefining leadership, what is it we're redefining? So I've got some myths that I want to share with you. And for some organizations, people in some organizations, they actually think these myths are true. We've got a ways to go, but we're getting there. So the first one is that leaders must have all the answers, right? We're the answer people. So when people come to us with their questions, we have to be able to give them the answer. That's our job, right? Otherwise, how do they know what to do? How do we know what decisions to make if we don't have all the answers? Or what? Yeah. The second myth, that leaders have to be in control of everything. People, backlogs, money, everything, right? Leaders have to be in control of all of those things. Otherwise, how can we report back to management about how we're doing? How can they be sure? How can we prove that we know what we're doing if we're not in control of everything? The third myth, we have to monitor and fix people. Right? We need to keep track of what everybody is doing, have a handle on it, and if they make a mistake, we need to be right in there to point out the mistake and give them ways, feedback, right, to fix it, to fix the people. That's our job. We monitor people. COVID was really tough. So I actually had a manager that I was working with. She called me, said, Jenni, we don't know what to do. We're trying to figure this out. Our management group, we're trying to figure out what to do. I'm like, okay, what do you mean what to do? Well, all our people are working at home. Yes. Yeah, how do we monitor them? How do we make sure that they're working when they should be working? I was like, oh, yeah, yeah. So, of course, there is a way. Of course, there is a way. So, what we do, sort of three parts, if you will, to this leadership. So, we need to, of course, look at the evolution of Agile. So pragmatic Agile, how do we work together to discover and deliver value? And of course, we have the methodologies, the different frameworks, and they are essentially facilitation techniques, right? So involving and engaging people to understand together and plan together and validate together and reflect together. And there's lots of other cool things, right, that have been part of the evolution of Agile. So team topologies, and I'm hearing about organizational topologies, and Hexi, and continuous discovery and delivery, and product operating models, and. There's a lot of stuff out there that we can use. Nobody says we must follow the Scrum Guide, or we must do everything it says in SAFe. Right? It's just common sense. If we follow those principles of understanding together and planning together and validating together and reflecting together, there are a lot of ways to do that. So that's maybe part one. And then we also need to tie into how our brains work. We can take advantage of how we're wired to create environments where people feel empowered, where they feel more motivated, where they get optimal thinking, right? We can help shape that. So understanding how our brains work can really help us as leaders to set those environments. And then the last, or maybe, I don't know if it's the last forever, we'll see what happens a year from now, giving control. So in order to make this work, leaders at every level need to be able to give control. And that is based on these two pillars of technical competence and organizational clarity. Technical competence, do the people that we work with have the skills to make good decisions? Probably. Otherwise, why would we hire them? And do they have the organizational clarity? So understanding what it is we're trying to achieve. What's the purpose? What's the vision? What's the direction? What's the strategy? Do we know what that is? And when we have those two things, it's very easy to give control. And it makes the whole sort of mix of ways of working, neuroscience, and the leadership portion work well. So I want to go a little deeper, of course, into intent-based leadership. And it's these 6 principles that it's based on. So we start with pushing authority to information, and tuning control based on competence and clarity, making it safe, fixing the environment, not the people. Don't be good, we want to get better, and then acting our way to new thinking. So these 6 principles tie into how we are wired, how our brains work. It supports the release of dopamine, that neurotransmitter in our brain that we can feel when something is going well, and it's that, yes, I feel trusted kind of feeling. Dopamine is released in the brain, and we are able to use that to think more clearly, more optimally, and we also feel more motivated. So I'll go a little deeper into each of these principles. Who decides? Who decides how we discover our customers' pain points? Who decides which of the hypotheses we should test? Who decides what we build? The people who are closest to the information, right? So this is the whole idea with decentralizing decision-making. And what's the physical evidence of decentralizing decision making, right? We want to have the people who are closest to the information making those decisions. So when I see a product team, for example, acting as what I call a kiosk, where stakeholders come to the kiosk and order things that they want, that is not an empowered team. We want to move to that team who's a true product team, where team members are discovering the value that they want to deliver, the things they want to test out. And that is how we get to those great outcomes that our organizations and our customers are looking for, right? So if we're working on something and we're thinking, oh, hey, we need to change this. Oh, yeah, but that's not at our pay grade. We're not allowed to make that decision. So we need to cascade up in the organization, and someone else who doesn't really know what this is about, but they are the ones who make the decisions. It goes back down, and the team members looking at it going, this doesn't even make any sense, right? And that happens every day. There's so much waste in that. It's so much smarter to give that decision-making authority to people who are closest to the information. And I am really fortunate. I'm working with a leader right now. He's a director in a transportation company, and trying also to change the culture. And one of the areas with several product leaders in that area have been trying to work on a strategy for that area. And this director, he's like, there is no way I am making this strategy. I'm not doing it. And the product leaders were like, what do you mean he's not going to make it? That's how it's done here. And he's like, nope, not doing it. And I'm kind of nudging the product leaders like, oh, you can jump in and do this. Yeah, but oh, this is scary. They didn't say that. But they didn't feel comfortable with that mandate. And we waited and we waited and we waited. Finally, they jumped in and did it. And you know what? It's one of the best product area strategy I've ever seen. It's really good, and they're super excited about it. So having this authority to make those decisions increases our sense of autonomy. It increases the feeling of being trusted and valued, and it releases dopamine in the brain. So push authority to the people who are closest to the information to make those decisions. And that's not always so easy. So as leaders, it's sometimes hard for us to give that decision-making authority away. I don't know. I am a recovering control freak. So sometimes this is really hard for me to do. And I have to think, okay, all right, yes, of course I'm going to do that, right? Because what we're looking at here is that we have the, oops, yeah, technical issues. All right, there we go. So we have the pillars here of technical competence and organizational clarity, and we need those in order to give control. So in order to feel safe giving control, understanding that, yes, our people have the skills. They understand what it takes. And they have the clarity, right? So they have the purpose, the direction, the goals. They understand what those are. And when we have these two things, when we have competence and clarity, we feel empowered to make decisions and give up that control. Yeah. Except it's still not that easy, right? So here I want to show you this graph. So on the y-axis, we have give control, and this is give control to others. And on the x-axis, this is the competence and clarity of others. Now here we're assuming that the people who are working in our organizations have technical competence, right? Otherwise, why would you hire them? Yeah. And the clarity. Do people understand the direction that we're going? What are the goals we're trying to achieve? So we need to do something as leaders here to give control. And we have to either go up, so give control, or we have to go to the right, ensure that people have the competence and clarity. Make sure they have the competence and clarity. What direction do we go first? Up or to the right? Right? Somebody says right? Up? Right. Up. Yeah. Okay. So, for those of you who said up, that's the only way. Because for me, as the control freak that I am in recovery. Some situations I'm really good. My husband parking, not so much. Yeah. So, giving control, we have to trust first. Because otherwise, at no point will anyone have enough competence or clarity for me. I just worry. I'm a worrier. So we need to trust first. Give some control. We need to go up. Give some control. And then see what happens, right? So then if something happens, there's some mistake or whatever, misunderstanding, then we need to close that competence and clarity gap. So, and I can tell you, sort of an unofficial survey, that about 75% of the time, the mistakes happen due to clarity, lack of understanding exactly what it was that we were trying to achieve. And whose responsibility is that? All of ours. All of ours. So we keep doing this. We do this stage sort of give control, close competence and clarity gaps. Go, 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 go. And in that way, it's safe both for the leader, if you will, or manager, maybe in this case, who's giving control to team members, and for the team members, right? Because if we give too much control, we have chaos. So if we have no competency and no clarity, there's chaos. And I can tell you a quick story. So my husband is a big sailor. And I only started sailing about 16 years ago. And the first year was a very quick learning experience for me. And we were sailing north of Poland, so toward Bornholm, in a very busy area. And he needed to step away from steering. And he said, don't worry, the sails are fine, there's nobody around, everything is good. You just go hold on to that rudder and keep going. I'll be back in a couple minutes. And I'm listening and looking, I hear a motor. And then I hear a motor getting closer, and I'm looking, I see this motorboat coming right at us. And I thought, this can't be good, but okay, I'm just looking. He must see us. The sails are up. And suddenly, the boat is very close. And I'm thinking, oh no, this isn't good. Ah! And dropped the rudder. And my husband came running up and fixed the sails, and we were out of danger. I can tell you, we had a retrospective after that. So this is the kind of chaos that can happen, right, if we don't have the competence and clarity. And this is maybe the Agile cowboys running around doing things. That's chaos. What we see more often, though, is the other side, the frustration. Leaders, managers who don't want to give control. Fellow team members who don't want to give up control. And that's frustrating for people. And what happens when we are frustrated? We leave, because there are plenty of other organizations that appreciate what we can do. So it's super important here when we give control that we have that balance of competence and clarity. And the only way to know is to trust first. So, yeah, okay. Intent-based leadership. All right, I intend to is the sort of magic phrase of intent-based leadership. And I intend to is a statement that we make, of course, when we intend to do something. So we're not asking for permission and then waiting to get that answer. We're sharing our intent and taking action. It's transparent. We're thinking out loud. It's two-way communication. So it's empowering for the person saying, I intend to, And then for that other person, the leader or manager or team member, the person who needs to give up control perhaps, it enables that person to ask questions rather than jump in and give answers. So, I intend to is a really good mechanism to increase the sense of autonomy that people have. And again, when we have that autonomy, dopamine's released in our brain. The connections that are in our brains wire to feel more motivated. And then we get more of that behavior. And that's what we're looking for if we're really trying to discover and deliver the value that our customers and organizations want. So I intend to. I'm guessing I'm going to hear a lot of I intend tos the rest of the day. Maybe. We'll see. So we need to make it safe. Make it safe for people to say, I intend to. We need to make it safe for people to say, I don't know. I don't know. How many of you are Agile coaches or consultants? Okay. Yeah, so we've got maybe a third, or right around that. Yeah, so as a consultant, it's especially hard to say I don't know, right? As an Agile coach or an Agile expert, if we don't know something and say I don't know, what do you mean you don't know? Of course you should know. Well, let me look in the Scrum Guide, right? It should be okay for all of us to be able to say I don't know. How can we expect to know everything? Make it safe to say I made a mistake, to share those mistakes and to learn from those mistakes. Make it safe to challenge the status quo. So, okay, I have a very pragmatic view of working Agile, and maybe it's because I don't come from a software background, so I was sort of a fish out of water from the very beginning. I remember the early Agile conferences, they were like, why are you here? Yeah, now it's more inclusive, thankfully, right? Yeah, so, and being able to sort of jump in and feel like, okay, I can challenge this, or I can challenge Scrum, or I can challenge SAFe, or I can challenge some of those other frameworks so we can bring in more pragmatism. Man, I can't tell you how many times the Agile Taliban were after me. It was scary. That's the only way we're going to survive. So as we move beyond the frameworks, and it's not that the frameworks aren't good, or okay, mostly. There's a lot of good stuff in there that we can use, so we shouldn't throw it all out the window. We still want agility. We can do it in a safe way where we're focused on learning. Yeah, so we need to make it safe to do all those things. And this comes from the work of Amy Edmondson, I guess recognized as the leading psychological safety expert in the world today. And psychological safety, of course, it's the foundation. It's the foundation of high performance and high performing teams. We need to have that sense of, okay, we're gonna be able to work together. We can disagree on what it is that we're doing without making it personal. So having task conflict rather than the personal relationship type conflict, right? Because we need that. We need to debate. Hey, are we going to do this, or are we going to do that? How are we going to test things? Which customers should we talk to? Which opportunities should we pursue? All of those things. We need to be able to have those open discussions in the teams and in the organizations. And the only way we can do that is in an environment where we feel psychologically safe. So, but that's not enough, right, to get to high performance. We also need those performance standards. And here is where competence and clarity come in. They tie so perfectly to performance standards. And sometimes I'm asked, well, Jenni, who decides what the performance standards are in the organization? Who do you think? The teams. They decide. And you know what? When the teams decide, those performance standards are top notch, and they're usually higher standards than anyone else in the organization at a higher level would come up with. So we need that combination in order to get to high performance. One of the tricks or mechanisms, to create even greater psychological safety is in how we ask questions. So when we ask the question, why are you doing that? Why did you put that in the strategy? Why are you talking to those stakeholders? That puts us on the defensive. So our brains actually go into survival mode. We're protecting ourselves from danger when we hear why, because it feels like a personal attack. And it's not that we don't want to know why. Of course, we want to understand why. It's just asking the question why puts us on the defensive. So we need to ask that question why in a different kind of way, using how or what. So, how or what questions? How did you come to that decision? What made you want to talk to those stakeholders? How are you going about creating that strategy? So, how or what questions are a mechanism that enable us to create even greater psychological safety in the organization? Just that simple little change. Fixing the environment. Yeah, we cannot fix people. I'm on my third husband, so now I have finally learned that lesson. Yeah, we can only fix the environment. So, all the things that get in the way of doing what we want to do, policies and procedures, maybe they're written, maybe they're sort of understood. Oh, it's these people who make the decisions, it's not the teams who make the decisions. Right, so how can we possibly know who to talk to? Because, those people up there. So change those policies. The reward policies in organizations, right? Thankfully, that's changing significantly. Individual bonuses, right? Let's measure me against my teammate. That's effective for creating both psychological safety and getting the right outcomes. No, we need to change the reward systems in the organizations too, to support getting to these outcomes where we discover and deliver the value that our customers want. So fixing the environment, removing the impediments to do this. And one of the tools that we use is an impediment removal board. So when impediments come up, we can put them on there. Maybe they're things like, we don't have Miro licenses or Mural or whatever online collaboration tool you're using. Or if you're lucky enough to be face-to-face, we can't buy real Post-it notes because procurement says it's too expensive. So it's better to get the cheaper ones that fall off the wall, right? So it's all these stupid things that get in the way that we need to fix. And when we do that, we create that environment where people can get the outcomes that they're working toward. So fix the environment, not the people. Language here, too, is a really good way, right? So when we talk about we instead of they, those people, they, the procurement people, the finance people, oh my God, the compliance people, they don't want us to do anything that's good. No. Our colleagues in compliance, our colleagues in finance, our colleagues, we together. And it changes our mindsets. So it feels awkward in the beginning. It's like learning Danish. It feels awkward in the beginning. And after a while, yeah, it's just, it is what we do. Yeah. Okay. Don't be good, get better. So in the way that we work, we're looking at our products, our teams, and individuals around getting better. We want to become better as people, at least most of us do. It's really motivating to become even better at what we do. As a team, we want to look at how we work, right? Take a pause and reflect. And how is it that we're working? What could we do differently to work even better? And of course, our products, right? So agile, agility, pragmatic agile, this does not go away. We need feedback about what we're doing. And who do we need the feedback from? Not our fellow teammates. We need the feedback from our end users. Yes, please. That's who we need the feedback from in order to guide our next steps, in order to get better. So yes, this has happened more than once. Working with teams who say, well, Jenni, nobody wants to come to the demo. No, really? Okay. Yeah, so we never get feedback because nobody wants to come to the demo. I'm like, no, it's not about the demo. I might have sworn a little in there too. It's not about the demo. It's about the feedback. Hello. If people are not coming to your demo, then go have lunch with them. Camp outside their door. Hold their hand, bring them to your computer. Whatever you need to do to get that feedback, that's what we need to do, right? Otherwise, how do we get better? So leadership enables us to do that, right? We have the courage, if you will, to do that, to get that feedback. So supporting our people to get that feedback in order to become better. So I've also heard the opposite story. Oh my God, Jenni, we get too much feedback. So we don't even want to show anything because we get so much feedback. Feedback's a gift. We need to set the expectations too with whoever we're getting the feedback from, obviously, right? So we can, another mechanism, we set the expectation, we say, we want all your feedback. Bring it on. We want everything, random, crazy, whatever, we want it. I might not say the random crazy to them. That's my inside voice. We want all that feedback. Yes. And then the power is in the team to take that feedback back into the team and discuss and decide, right? Because we're pushing that decision-making authority about what to do next to the team. They're the ones who are closest to the information, or at least that's what we want. So setting those expectations that if, for instance, a high-powered stakeholder is giving us some feedback on the product, it is perceived normally as, okay, that's what that person wants to see next time around. No, we need to change that. So we need to help our stakeholders also understand that it's our teams that have this power now. Yeah. So don't be good, get better. And when we have this sort of focus, this I want to be better attitude, it changes how our brain is wired. And this continuum is called the toward away continuum. And on one side, we're moving away from danger. This is scary. Defense mechanisms are on high alert. So the organizing principle of the brain is to minimize danger and maximize reward. And when somebody asks me, why did you do that? Oh, okay, now I'm starting to feel a little defensive. Jenni, they hate you. Oh, no. Agile? Oh, no. This too shall pass. Right? So managers who maybe feel like, what do we do now if teams are empowered? What's our role? That feels scary, right? So we're over here on the protect ourselves from danger attitude. On the other side here, we are focused on becoming even better, improving. Change is a challenge. I intend to. That's what we see over on this side, right? And this side is the side where dopamine is being released in the brain. And that is the neurotransmitter that makes us feel more motivated. It also, at the right levels, gets us to high performance. So optimal brain function here when we're on this side. So I knew with that team that I talked about in the beginning that hated the idea of me that I needed to meet them where they were on this continuum. And you better believe they were over here. So I didn't come in with the Agile high fives, right? I needed to meet them where they were and not talk about Agile at all. And now I'm not saying that they were all the way on this side when they left, but a little nudge. They were not quite as far on that side in the beginning. So understanding that we're on this continuum and as we work to improve, we open up the connections in our brain and we feel more autonomous. We feel more valued. We feel more trusted and supported. And that enables us to get great things done. So over on this side, that's where we want to be. So little nudges to get us there, meeting people where they are. And that focus on improving is super important for all of us. So SAFe certified people, I'm talking to you. No, okay. Talking to me too. All right, so the last of the principles is acting your way to new thinking. We cannot think our way to new acting. We actually have to do something. So the old idea about, we're going to think, we're going to analyze, and then change will occur. No, that's not how it works. We need to see it, we need to feel it, and that's how change occurs. So for the brain, we need to decide to do something, and then we actually need to do it. We have to do it. And then we need to feel a reward associated with that. So getting some immediate recognition of that positive behavior, that then helps release what? Dopamine, yes. Release dopamine in the brain that makes us want to do that again. It feels good. It feels good. So repeating that over and over and over, that is how we actually get new habits, we change mindsets. So I was asked to come in to the same transportation company and change the way they did planning. And the organization doesn't talk about Agile. Some of the teams do. They know about different methodologies, but we don't talk about it. And they asked me to come in and get 90-day planning going in the entire organization. And I said, okay, yep, what are the problems you're trying to solve? And yes, the same problems that I'm sure. Mitigating dependencies, getting people to talk to each other, getting more valuable outcomes quicker. Okay, great. So I said, I'm not going to come in and say, oh, here's Jenni, the planning person, and now you're going to do it her way. I said, nope, I'm not doing that. We'll set up a real experiment. A real experiment with evaluation criteria and a hypothesis that is objective that we're going to test, and conditions, start date, end date, and the people who are going to create the experiment will be a cross-section of everyone in the organization. So we had like 25 people and created this experiment. And I said, look, you need to know that if this experiment fails, we're not doing this. He's like, yeah. I'm not sure he quite believed that because, he's the boss. I was very like, no. So we decided to do it in the riskiest area of the organization as a start. And 1 year, so we could do four planning sessions. And of course, we did check-ins along the way. We did not call them retrospectives. We called them check-ins. So check-ins along the way to find out what was working, what didn't, so we could tweak along the way. And we did baseline surveys and surveys along the way. So really finding out, hey, are we on the right path here with what we're doing? And then at the end, the fourth time, we did a formal evaluation together with everybody who was involved in the plannings. And I can tell you that it went super well. And they said, yes, we can't imagine planning any other way. And that's what we mean by acting our way to new thinking. If we had come in and started talking about 90-day planning and, oh, it's so good, and here's what it says in SAFE about PI planning, and, oh, we need to do all this on the agenda, their heads would have exploded, right? Instead, we tried to boil it down to the things that were most important. What is it we're trying to achieve? What are the outcomes? And it succeeded. And now, yes, they're doing it without me. They don't need me anymore. Yay! Right? That's the whole idea. We want to find ways to help people and organizations get to the results that they want. And if that means sort of manipulating different techniques, implementing cool new things that you read in whatever new book, yes, yes, act your way to new thinking. That's how we get there. All right. So, as we use intent-based leadership to change the way that we lead to support getting to the right outcomes, there are also some considerations here. So, looking at organizations, right, we need to take a systems thinking approach with what we're doing. That's around the environment, right? So, what is it in the system? If we change one thing here, it's going to change something else. So, for example, with the 90-day planning experiment and running those 90-day plannings, I knew this would happen. Very quickly, it was like, well, how can we do the 90-day planning if we don't have some sort of a roadmap about what it is that we're planning? I'm like, bingo. Yes. Yes. So that was the mechanism, if you will, to get them to also look at their long and thin planning, the roadmaps that we revisit. So we also did that. And then it was like, yeah, but how do we know that the stakeholders are getting what they want? Yeah, maybe you need to show them, right? Maybe you need to get a little feedback. So all those things happen when you change something in the system. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, you know this. So systems thinking, it's about fixing the environment. Cross-functional teams. We, as leaders, cannot have all the answers. We can't know everything. And having cross-functional teams enables us to get amazing things done because we have the competencies that we need in the team and we work together. So cross-functional teams, we have to keep no matter what. All right, that's just my view. Involving and engaging people to create ownership and clarity, right? When we involve and engage people in the decision-making and the planning, we get ownership. So involving, engaging people in that. And then people have different starting points. So this is also super valuable. So if you think back to that toward away continuum, we all have different starting points. And we take things into our brains at different rates. So we can only move as fast as the slowest person. So if we're trying something new and it's like, oh, this is really hard for one person, the rest of the team is like, what's going on there? It's not dumping that person out. We need to bring them along and understand, okay, we need to take a deep breath and start where that person is. So starting where people are. And then getting support. We need support from executive management, of course. Creating that psychological safety for challenging the status quo and looking at new ways of working. So these are some of the considerations that we always have when we're looking at, okay, how can we improve ways of working, maybe beyond the frameworks, and create a space where people feel empowered to discover and deliver value every single day. So what I'd like to do now is open it up for questions, and then I'll conclude after that. And because it's really difficult for our brains to switch from listening mode to questioning mode, I will ask you to talk with your neighbor or neighbors a little bit about, what you just heard. So I'm going to give you a minute just to chat about what you just heard here from me. And then I'm going to open it up for questions or any sharing of experiences that the rest of us can benefit from hearing. So take a minute. All right. Ah, this is the part I hate. I love it when you're talking like this. All right. So, anybody willing to share? I know we've got Paul ready with the microphone. Share what you were talking about or any questions that you might have. What questions do you have?
How to get executive stakeholders on board of this change? Because probably most of us have like schedules, you have to deliver A by date X, etc. And how to talk about being more agile with it.
Yeah. So what I do is meet the executive managers where they are on that continuum. And usually what has happened is there have been people around talking about Agile. Oh, we need Scrum Masters or RTEs or whatever. We need all these things. I was like, I don't know what an RTE is. I don't know what a PI is. And suddenly the executive managers especially feel threatened. It's like, oh, I should know this, right? I'm the leader. I should know this. And when we feel threatened, we dig in our heels, right? It's like, no, no, we're not having any of these Scrum Master things, whatever that is. We're not having those. So meeting them where they are and talking about, okay, what are the things that are getting in the way? So finding out what the pain points are for those managers. And you can do that actually quite easily with 4 little questions. What's working well? What do they want to stop doing in the organization? What do they want to start doing in the organization? And what's their one wish? So asking those questions and finding out, okay, all right, now based on that, here are some ideas. And don't use any Agile jargon whatsoever. And maybe start small. Maybe you have some options and say, well, which of these do you think would bring the most value? Which of these would you like to start with? So not taking their status or authority away, but bringing it together to them so that they still feel that they're in control. And that's the key. We need to help those managers feel that they're still in control. And getting to those decisions or pushing the decision-making authority to people with the information could take a very long time depending on the manager. And it's really tough because those executive managers, not all, but many, especially in large organizations, they've gotten to the top because they've had all the answers, right? And so suddenly we're telling them, no, we don't want your answers. We want other people who are closer to the information to have the answers. And that feels threatening. So whatever we can do to make them feel included and clever and appreciate the value that they bring as well in terms of decision making and creating the space. And here too is where you want to reward the behaviors that you see in your executive managers. So when they are giving the space or asking curious questions or pushing a decision to someone else, praise them, say, this is awesome, fantastic. You know what you're doing by doing that? It's so clever. You are building the connection in the brain that releases dopamine and making people feel trusted and valued. And you know what? The most successful organizations today are successful because people feel trusted and valued and get to those right decisions. So you're it's not manipulation, it is reframing how we talk about what it is that we're trying to do. No jargon, no technical terms, no nothing. The most common sense way that you can talk about it. And really, again, from my perspective, I'm positioning it as solving one of their needs. Yeah, thank you.
Just a quick question. How to switch from this proving stance to improving stance if I will find myself in the red zone?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there are a few ways to do that. So, if we are stressed or tired or hungry or thirsty, it's more difficult to sort of nudge ourselves to the more improving part. Catch yourself in the act. So, as consultants, there's a lot of proving happening. So, for those of you who are consultants, nobody wants to hire a coach who says, "I don't know," right? That doesn't work so well. Not yet, anyway. I'm hoping that will change over time. So catch yourself in the act of, okay, am I proving here? Is there a question that I could ask? So, for instance, maybe sometimes I might say, in my experience, that's my little trigger. Hello, Jenni, you are proving. Maybe there's a nugget here that I could learn from. Tell me more. Say more about that. So, asking some curious questions. And then give yourself a chance to pause. So, build in reflection time for yourself because it's really hard in sort of the stress of our day to day lives to sort of have the sort of conscious thought, am I proving or improving here? And then look at what is it that you want to become even better at doing? And becoming even better at something you're already good at is much easier than becoming better at something you're not so good at yet. So look at what those are and make some goals for yourself. Yeah.
Hi, Jenni. I can't disagree with anything you said. I think you've got a couple of Easter eggs in there, which I think people need to think through. I like it. Your take. Fix the environment, not the people. So you know this cliche, it's always a people problem. Thank you, Jerry Weinberg. Right, people are the result of the environment they're in.
Yeah.
So it's not always a people problem.
No.
And most Agile training, I'm particularly interested in your view on this, starts with Agile values. And we love to preach Agile values. But actually, get people to act through things, first of all. And this is my own experience. Agile values are meaningless until people have experienced them. I'd like your take on that.
Yeah, no, totally agree. This is the whole act your way to new thinking. That is the only way. Yeah. So we can preach the values forever. It doesn't bring any meaning for anybody until we actually feel it. When we feel it, it's like, that's it, right? So it is, some of the problems with the ceremonies in Scrum or events in SAFe is that people don't feel the benefit of it. It just feels like, oh, we're standing up and having a reporting session. Oh, great, right? That is not the outcome we're trying to get to. So you're exactly right. Yeah. Thank you.
So I have a question. When you're on this like improving end on the scale, how can you define that the organization is like, still healthy also on this end, and it like kind of doesn't cause the burnout? Because it also can happen, I think, on this like the green zone there.
Yeah. So we're constantly on the continuum. Some things we're really good at improving and other things not so good, for example. And how we frame the questions and how, for instance, with getting feedback on our products, we want all the feedback and our team, we're going to decide which feedback we take in. We're going to let you know what we're going to use. So we need to sort of also teach the rest of the organization when we're working on improving our products or working on improving our teams or the organizations or us as people, and talk about it, be transparent about it, and also understand that, we're not always improving. Of course, we're under stress or something has happened or whatever, and then our brains go into sort of survival mode, and that happens as well. What we don't want is to have most of the time in that survival mode, because then we have very closed thinking and we don't get those outcomes. So we need to build in those pauses. And again, one of the, I don't know if it's a principle of Agile or a way of working in Agile, having that slack time. And again, that's one of the things that gets thrown out the window. We need to be 100% allocated. No, you don't. That's not a way of working. We can't actually get to working smarter if we're just doing busy work all the time. So we need to build that in. And it's a process. There's no magic bullet, unfortunately.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi.
So, where do I find the Jepsen reader? As you're going through, I'm hearing Levine and Shine and Dweck and Marquet.
Yep.
Have you published this yet? And do you want to?
Oh, I did not plant that question, I promise. So, yes, I do have a book. It is called Together. I've written it together with my partner in crime, who's also my husband. Together, how leaders involve and engage people to get great things done. Thank you. I'll pay you later. Yeah. I think we might have time for one more question. Yeah, there's up here, it looks like, Paul.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi.
I would be curious to hear when you work with individuals and teams on the interactions and want to help them learn about how feedback can help them improve it overall. Do you tend to focus on giving and receiving feedback, in a format of it, or do you just simply encourage people to take it all, warts and all, and give it all?
Yeah.
So do you try to mediate between it, because from my experience, proving again, some people tend to be a bit resistant, maybe also due to some insecurities,
Yeah.
giving and receiving feedback.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. So the neuroscience is really clear on this. Giving feedback to people who don't want it or are not ready to take it in doesn't work. Not at all, not even a tiny little bit. It doesn't work. So all the feedback sandwiches where you say something nice and then the meat is not so nice and then the bread again is another nice thing, forget it. Okay, praising is always good, right? Giving positive feedback, always good. If there's something else, doesn't work unless the person is open to it. The person trusts you completely and understands that whatever you're telling them is because you have their best interests at heart. So there are a couple of tricks that I use because, of course, we want to create a culture where people are asking for feedback all the time. And so what I do is ask people before they're going to do something, what kind of feedback is useful for you? So before a demo or before a team maybe is, I don't know, maybe somebody in the team's running a workshop or presenting to some stakeholders or whatever it might be, before they go in, what kind of feedback is useful for you? And sometimes they say, well, what do you mean? What do you mean? Well, do you want it on how you present the data? Or do you want it on how much you talk versus how much you listen? So you might have to give them some ideas. And I've never, ever, ever had someone say, oh, I don't want any feedback. So it just gets them in that, okay, yeah, actually, I would like some feedback on whatever. And then give that feedback, give specific feedback only on the thing that they asked for. Now, again, you can give all the positive feedback that you want to, as long as it's specific. So it's not like, oh, that presentation was great. No, what was great about it? How did it make you feel? What did you notice? So very specific things so people can repeat that behavior. And then very specific on the ideas. And when I am giving a suggestion on how to make something better or even better, I always say, this is from my perspective, my experiences, my lens. I might be wrong. And just saying that opens up people, right? Because then they're like, oh, good, I can reject her stuff. And usually they don't because they feel they're in control of it. And that's the key with feedback. You need to feel in control of that feedback. And so with teams getting product feedback, I want them to say, we want all your feedback, and change the demo sessions if you're still doing demos to get that feedback to say, we're not going to defend, well, you told us to do that. No, just get the feedback in, go back in the team, sort out what's useful and what's not, and let people know what you're going to do. So, yeah, thanks for that question. And I can see now I'm over time. So, Intent-based leadership really is a great tool, if you will, the principles and practices to enable us to discover and deliver value, to create the space where people can jump in and feel empowered. And when we give control and increase our competence and clarity, we rewire our brains. We feel more motivated. We feel valued, trusted. We take responsibility. And in that way, we can really get great things done. Thank you.